Rachel.
Hi guys, welcome to Mayday. This is our podcast style YouTube channel. And we go down deep dives and rabbit holes here. We don't so much cover true crime, although I'm not going to say that we'll ever rule out a true crime case. Actually, I was talking to one of my other friends who lives here, and we started talking, and this is kind of off the rails, but I wanted to tell you this too, because it was something I was thinking about doing one time on here. Was doing maybe one with her as the guest that day, and we're trying to like unravel a local true crime mystery.
Ooh.
When I was a kid, a pastor, well, he was the principal and a pastor, I believe, of like a Christian school. He was arrested for trying to hire somebody to, I don't know what all we can say on YouTube. So I'll just go with unalive because you have to do that on TikTok. Unalive his wife with a hatchet for like $15 is what he tried to pay the guy. So the guy was like, nah, and went to the police. But what was so wild about it, and why like now where it's kind of become a mystery, is that like my sister went to the school when this happened, and my whole family remembers it. There was nothing, I couldn't find anything online about it, and she's never heard of it. So now it's like I'm kind of set on trying to figure out if anyone else has heard of it, or so I might do that. I think that could be like a good episode. So today we're talking. Mayday. Ironically, oh no, technical difficulties. What's happening? Hold on.
There you go.
Did I go blank for a while?
Yeah, for just a few minutes. Or not a few minutes, but like a few seconds.
Okay, it's fine. Just whoop. Okay, today we're talking about the Hotel ZaZa. And the dynamic that we kind of have is that I am like always the one like going down rabbit holes and reading about them. And then Elena's kind of like
the reaction.
Yeah, you're like kind of the sounding board, and like I feel like you have the fresh opinions, you know? Right. So based on what you know about the hotel, we'll do the same thing we did in the last episode. What's your understanding of the Hotel ZaZa?
I did not look into it very much at all because I don't know. I feel like you telling me and me not knowing much.
Like story time.
Right. So I know, one, it's a hotel, and the controversy centers around a room. And the original story was that someone rented the room and they went in there, and then the hotel found out they were there and was like, oh, you're not supposed to be in there. And it's a really creepy room. Something's definitely wrong with it. And that's about the extent that I know.
Well, before I even really get started on exactly what's going on, and I feel like this will be a recurring theme on our channels that I always want to kind of like set the boundaries a little bit before we go into the story. People had surprisingly strong opinions about this on TikTok. I
saw that, and I want you to explain kind of where that came from.
I'm definitely going to. Some of it I don't want to explain up front because it'll spoil the story, but I will say this. I will claim a little bit of this because what happened was we decided to do this for an episode here on YouTube. And so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to start reading about it. And while I'm learning, I'll make a few TikToks, and then that will help people kind of get a little bit of an intro, and then they can come to our channel for the full story. So right. I wasn't completely familiar with all of the updates, like for years after. I was familiar with the core event and the press surrounding the core event at the time, but I didn't know everything about like the whole story. Well, not even the whole story, because that was the whole story, but I didn't know everything about like what would happen later. So I think that's where the issue came in, is that a lot of other content creators had already covered it, and I didn't know that. I didn't know how they covered it or what their opinions were, which to me isn't. I try to usually avoid that stuff because I don't want to accidentally take somebody else's work. You know what I mean?
Well, it's your opinion too.
Right. Like I didn't.
Other people's work and opinion, it can influence kind of how you interpret it yourself. So.
Yeah, it influences. Yeah, you want it fresh from like the original sources so that you have your own unique opinion, and that and I also don't ever want to accidentally steal, but I will say this. I did, after people were so upset, like people were like, this is just nothing. It's just viral marketing. Well, then I went and I watched all the other like content creators' opinions about it afterward.
Yeah.
So, I
Don't
even
spoil it.
huh?
Don't spoil it.
I won't. I'm just going to launch into the story, but I will say I just watched one of them that I hadn't seen yet for the first time, like a couple hours ago. So I still didn't really agree with the conclusions, and I also read Night Dog. So I did like a huge Reddit thread basically saying like he feels like that this is at an end, this is debunked, and I didn't really agree with that either. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not a conspiracy theorist for real. I just think it's kind of weird. So, all right, let's get started. All right. So this user on Reddit, henceforth referred to as OP, posts this thread about how he and his friends are at the Hotel ZaZa, which is in Houston, on a business trip. And that they all have the rooms he's pretty familiar with at the Hotel ZaZa, which are swanky, maybe a little offbeat. But his friend got put into a very strange and unusual room at the Hotel ZaZa. And let me put up a picture real quick and we'll talk about it. Let's go. All right. So this is an example of like just a piece of the room. So there's just really unusual paintings and like there's these barren concrete. One of my comments said all hotel rooms have concrete floors. I was like, what?
Where are you from?
Well, maybe under the carpet is what I don't know, but they had these concrete floors. A lot of the theories, which is what Night Dogs felt like he was debunking, had to do with this faux brick wall. You can see that in the bottom part of the picture. And the fact that the mirror looks like it's recessed into the faux brick wall. And a lot of people thought, what if it's a two-way mirror? Now, okay, let's look at one other picture from a different angle. Well, we have a few. Let's look at a few from different angles. Okay, so there's a lot of imagery like this too. So the strange and unusual art's not that weird to me because I mean that's kind of something I would make. But you have these like conjoined twins, and their hair is
not
like
typical hotel room art.
It's not par for the course for a hotel room. No,
I love that skull one though.
Well, the whole room is covered in skulls, and like there's a clock with like skulls and crossbones, and yeah, I actually like the room. That's what's so funny is there were also a lot of people like, so they shop at Target or Spencer's Gifts, and I'm like, I mean, look, secret societies, if that's what's going on, they have to shop somewhere. But
right.
So, this one shows kind of more. This is more of a close up on the art. So you have the twins. I guess they're not conjoined. There's just like optical illusion kind of stuff. Like there's a hand coming out of nowhere. Their hair's kind of like looped together. So they're joined by their hair. And then you have like the skull on the clock face, and you have like the paintings of the skulls, and just some really unusual art.
The twin art is very bizarre, and that would probably be what set me off about the room. Like I would be unsettled and uncomfortable trying to stay there with that going on.
Well, here's the weirdest part to me of the room. And I grabbed this picture too. Is this framed photo of at first, okay. So Joe likes music. He says his friend ends up in this strange room. And when they go to the front desk, also the room is a third of the size of all of the other rooms. And the bed has like a weird little chain that connects it to the wall. And then there's this framed picture of course, you're not going to know who this is at first, but Reddit figured it out. But there's a random framed picture of an older man, which is kind of hysterical, but it's also bizarre. So they go to the front desk and they're like, okay, what's up with this room? And the woman at the front desk is like, nobody's supposed to be in that room. Sorry. And like, panics and and then like gets the guy transferred to another room right away. And so that's what really, he's like, that really sets him off like, okay, so this is strange. And so everybody goes down these deep rabbit holes with all of this information. The man in the photo, the framed photo, which is to me like by far the most random part of the whole thing. His name is Jay Kume. All right. He's a guy that leads he was like a big higher up in the Stanford financial group. And he was involved in a Ponzi scheme and was like arrested and in big trouble for being involved in this Ponzi scheme. Why would you have a framed photograph of some guy who's big in a financial group and
scheming
and involved in this random scheme? None of it makes sense. Okay. All right. So there was another post on Reddit about somebody getting moved out of this room and they got booked into it. And a very interesting thing, which I did just learn, I told you I watched Barely Sociable. Everyone was like, this was debunked by Barely Sociable. And I want to address that too real quick. It was not. addressing over. It was not debunked. But no, it wasn't like debunked. The Barely Sociable even says at the end of the video, I never want to influence people to say like, this is the end all be all. But one of the things I thought was really interesting in Barely Sociable's video was that he found a blog post from a woman talking about being kicked out of that room, like the same way that her being like, this room's a little odd, from years before the Reddit post blew up. Joe Likes Music's post. And nobody cared about it. Nobody had seen it. It wasn't like a thing. So it's like proof that other people have been like, oh, you're not supposed to be in that room, and kicked out.
You think they do a little bit better to keep people from being booked? Like, is there their first day and they just like book people there because they don't know? Or
well, I think that's where the skepticism comes from, though, right? Because people are like, well, why are they still booking people into it? So it blows up on Reddit, and all of these news organizations start picking it up, and the local press, the Houston Times, they actually interview a big like PR rep at the hotel, and they said they didn't trust none of it either. They were like, it's sketchy and weird. Like they tried to call her and she wasn't calling back, and they couldn't get a hold of her, and the answers she gave were really like unsatisfying. Trying to think of like a few of the things she said. Basically, she was like, oh, we have many themed rooms. That one is a jail experience called
bullshit is what it's called.
Yeah, that it's a jail experience called the Hard Times Room is what they said. I just look and then
lie.
I think it's like,
because you don't get jail, you get like creepy cult. Right. You should have called it the creepy cult room, and maybe I'd believe it. But then also, none of the other rooms, from what I understand, are themed. It's like a regular swanky hotel, right?
Don't say that.
Okay.
Because that's why they came for me. Because I said, the guy who made the Reddit post, he said they're totally regular rooms, just swanky. And I was bombarded. And most of the time, I think people are just excited to share. I'm going to be really fair. I think most of the people are just excited to share what they know and put their knowledge into the situation. So I don't think most people were coming from a place of like aggression, but some were. Like I had a few people I had a few people I had to block because they were like, oh, you didn't research this, you don't know anything. And again, I had researched it, but I hadn't quite finished. I thought, okay, at the beginning, I'll put this up, and then,
Right.
I'm going to show you an example of a themed room at the Hotel ZaZa, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so this is an example of a themed room at the Hotel ZaZa. Now, it's definitely themed, but what is your opinion on this compared to what they call the Hard Times Room?
Okay, this looks like it's cohesive. Like they've got a theme in mind. Everything points towards that theme. It's obvious looking at it instantly what the theme is.
Right. And I also think that here's the other thing, right? I also think that like, whenever we screen share, I have to flip you so you come back to the right spot. Okay. I also think that like the big thing is like it's lightly themed and it is swanky, and I don't necessarily think it's totally unfair for the original Reddit poster to say that like all the, because he'd been there a bunch for business trips, and he said that all the other times they were just regular swanky rooms. So I don't think that's like totally unfair of him to say like people acted like, oh well, that's just incorrect. I would probably also say that was just a swanky hotel room. I wouldn't necessarily think it was like anything all that, you know.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Okay, so this is important. A couple things about themed rooms in the Hotel ZaZa. They have a top floor of all themed rooms. Now, some of them are a little bit more over the top than that one. Okay.
Yeah.
There's one that's like it looks like a ship. So even like the bed kind of has like a ship mast kind of situation. It's kind of like what you'd see in Orlando. Reminds me of that. And they call them the Magnificent Seven, I believe. So all the themed rooms are grouped and have an area, and they're all the Magnificent Seven, and it's all on this one floor.
Was that one that you showed me, one of the Magnificent Seven? That was just another room.
It was a room mixed in with regular rooms on a different floor and is not listed as one of the themed rooms. And it's tiny. It's a third of the size of most of the other rooms. It's tiny. And it's apparently a jail experience. I swear, I'm really not a conspiracy theorist, but I just think there's something weird. Now, I'll tell you.
Something weird, one, because they're obviously lying about the jail thing. Because that's not, one, I wanted to go to a hotel to relax and escape, not go to a jail-themed room. So that's already, like, bizarre. But then also, it does not look like anything jail-related.
If you wanted, let me tell you, I did with my family one time and I was so embarrassed. There used to be an escape room place in town. We've been together too. Oh. And they had really neat rooms, but it was more like hometown. Like it wasn't as fancy as some of the escape rooms I've been to in bigger cities because we live in a small town. But they like really tried, and what was cool about it was in an antique building. And we've been there, and they actually had a pirate room that was awesome. You like crawled up in the ship and like under and these little doors. So the time I went with my family, we picked the jail themed room just because that's what made me think of. And the jail themed room was so bad. Like none of the clues made any sense. Like even after they told us, like one of the things was like, and now you trade with me. And I was like, I guess that means the game master. So like we went and tried to, like, we knew where he was sitting, so we tried to open the door and he wouldn't come in, and then they just let the clock like run down, and finally he came in. He was like, yeah, you're supposed to trade that with me. I guess since we didn't specifically say it, it was a mess. Right. This is the point. And I'm like the last to ever complain, but escape rooms are super expensive. So my sister was like, I just wanted to say, like, can we maybe do a different room? And they were really crappy about it, which made me kind of sad because we've been there a lot.
Right.
But it was really bad. The point is, it was a jail theme. So like you went into this like cell area, and they had like PVC pipe like hooked in and like painted gray like to these like little holes and wooden slots. So you were like in a little jail cell when you started. The only thing that I've seen about this room that says jail is there's the little chain that connects the bed to the wall.
That's what I was thinking. But even that doesn't scream jail.
Not really. I mean, it doesn't really to me either. So let's talk about some of the initial like big theories on Reddit were that the skull and crossbones, and that the room number is room number 322. Well, so you got these skull and crossbones everywhere, and you're in room number 322. So the biggest connection immediately, especially with the like creepy dungeon look, was the Skull and Crossbones Secret Society. And that's at Yale. And they called themselves the Order 322.
Oh.
Yeah, so the only problem is that Yale is so far away. However, what you have to remember about Skull and Bones, which is a real secret society, it's not a fictitious thing. Now, we don't know exactly what they do, and I will say I think most secret societies, when you get down to it, are probably kind of boring. I think that they get hyped up a little bit more than they should be. But so the Yale is very far, from Houston, so people were like, yeah, I don't know. But then people figured out that the guy in the picture, Jay Kamei, that he was a member of a fraternity called Zeta Zeta, which sounds a lot like ZaZa. Like if you shorten Zeta Zeta, it could be ZaZa. Yeah, so that was like a really interesting theory. And that fraternity was at the same college where they had a very similar secret society called the Friars. And their image, like nothing is I wish I could give y'all like more background on the Friars, but from what I understand, like nobody really knows anything about them. But they do use skulls and crossbones. Actually, I think they don't do the crossbones. They just do the skulls. And if you remember the one big painting in the room, like the real big one, just a skull. So that's unusual. Now, yeah, the response from the hotel was that it's the hard times room, it's a jail experience, and that sometimes the president of the hotel, like he lived there for like 2 weeks, which is weird anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Like you're the president of a really fancy, expensive hotel and you spend your time living in a creepy dungeon room that's tiny in it. Like what's going on with that?
Don't buy it.
Even if that's true and it's just his personal suite, what issues does he have?
That's a weird kink.
What is it that he needs to like work out? That's how he chooses. And Night Dog's explanation for that was, well, even if you're rich, sometimes you want to eat at McDonald's or like something like that. I'm like,
not the same.
I think that it's not that I didn't think like, okay, so you go, sometimes you do want to say that it's fair to say like Occam's razor, right? The simplest explanation is usually the one that's true.
Right.
Sure, but in this case, is there like a simple explanation that really...
Nothing really simply just explains this in a way that makes logical sense.
It just doesn't fit to me. Like this, okay, so this guy wanted to stay in this weird room for whatever reason. Okay. And then like Night Dogs also had pictures. He was like, well, you couldn't see in the original pictures that they've got like a little fake, like the yard area, and like they had like a framed orange jumpsuit, and they had replaced the photo of that guy, Jay Kamei, with this picture that Conan has. I'm a Conan O'Brien super fan, so I won't do the full explanation, but there is this picture of Conan O'Brien like in an electric chair, like in an orange jumpsuit, and they replaced that picture of Jay Kamei. So I don't think that other stuff was even there when the other person stayed in the room. Yep. They would have mentioned that, especially since there's this other blog of another lady who stayed in the room a long time ago. Somebody would have mentioned.
I think they added that stuff after the fact to make it go along with their story.
That's what I think too. I don't think it was there already. I don't think that makes any sense.
Nope.
And the other thing, okay. So Night Dogs had several explanations for things. And he said, yeah, it's more jail themed in person. Also, he was really curious about trying to figure out what was behind that faux brick wall to see if there was something that could conceivably be an area that was used to like look through a two-way mirror, right? And he said at first he got really excited because he found this small padlock door, but that they told him that, oh, that's just like electrical circuits and stuff back there. And that wall would actually share the room next door. And you wouldn't even be able to see anything because it would be in the bathroom and you'd be looking through a mess of wires and pipes. Well, a couple interesting things I read reading through the thread. Okay. And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I feel that that's a two-way mirror.
Right.
Whatever. I'm not sure. But a few interesting points I read looking through the thread was that I saw a guy who said I literally am a bathroom fitter, and that's not true. He was like, if you were looking through that area, he's like, the piping and things are very thin. You could still fully see something. He's like, the real question would be, and again, I don't know, maybe this is really far-fetched, I'm not sure. He said the real question would really be, are those rooms usually booked together? Because they're not usually available to the public. So if those rooms are booked together often, and we don't know what room 220 or 321, which would be the room next door, we don't even know what it looks like. Maybe it's weird too. So maybe they're connecting. I'm trying to think of a way to say this like really YouTube friendly, and I try to keep things pretty PG in general because I don't know. I'm like a mom and I feel like weird about kids like maybe stumbling across. So the biggest theory that makes sense to me is that this room and maybe the one next door are used for things of an adult nature that were popularized by like 50 Shades of Grey. Already existed. I know people hate 50 Shades. I'm just trying to think of a code, like a code word that maybe these old executive guys use those rooms for some 50 Shades thing. And somebody did comment on my TikTok and they said, my friend works here. And I said, ask him for the dirt. And he said people have to sign NDAs, and then there's a bunch of like old naked dudes walking around. I don't know if that's true because it's just a random comment I got on TikTok, but I did get that comment. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. But a lot of other people thought, okay, so Skull and Bones. There's not a ton known about Skull and Bones either. Because it's a secret society, so unfortunately we don't have all the secrets. But Skull and Bones has been home to many like really famous world leaders. George W. Bush was, I think, the first one really like famously connected to being in Skull and Bones. And a lot of people on Reddit were saying like that they could be using it for blackmailing other people, like maybe the people on the other side. Like if you are in the bathroom, that's pretty good blackmail material. Get you in the bathroom. Like, I'm going to show this video of you in the bathroom to everybody. It's possible. I don't know.
I don't know if I necessarily believe that's a two-way mirror.
Yeah, well, that's what somebody was really going hard on me. And they're like, this is debunked. You can look at blueprints of the hotel. There's nothing secret behind there. And I was like, I never even mentioned that because I don't necessarily know if I think that either. I don't know that I agree that it's debunked. So they're coming to get me. Oh no, they're here. Gotta go. No, that's just my husband coming home. It does literally sound with the alarm and everything though, like I said too much, which I do say too much. I do say too much on the internet, so I wouldn't be entirely shocked if I have been getting a little creeped out at night recently because there's a few people I've talked about that I'm like, you shouldn't have talked about that. Like, especially that guy that was stalking Bob. I was like, maybe I should have talked about that. Oh, so here's a really interesting thing about the Hotel ZaZa. Like, just something that happened. Again, this is proof of nothing. We're just two idiot friends talking about interesting conspiracies. But I thought that this was kind of fascinating is I have a person on my TikTok that I try not to directly point to because I think that'd be messed up. And also I don't really want to lose their insights just in case. But they seem to be connected to the Freemasons, and they seem to know a lot about secret societies, and they speak really cryptically. And when I was talking about the Hotel ZaZa on TikTok, they were leaving comments like this is how secret societies can operate in the same room as 100 other people, and they never even would know they're there. He's like, because you can put up literal photos of evidence of a secret society, and everyone here is like, it's nothing. And I was like, so you think that, and I asked him outright, I said, so you think the ZaZa is connected with secret societies? He's like, look at the room. Of course it is. So I don't know. I don't know this guy. I don't think he's an orphanage member. If you watched our last video, that'll make sense. I don't think he's an orphanage member. I think he's a Freemason from the same area, and he just knows a lot. I do think that he gave me a little warning. I did this TikTok live, and I just think this is interesting about secret societies, just to tell you this little story too. I did this TikTok live, and I was joking around. I'd been talking about the Oddfellows, which I had been really unfamiliar with the Oddfellows. Like, it's a secret society too, but I was really unfamiliar with them. And so I did this TikTok live, and I made this joke on the live about, like, what if I tried to join the Oddfellows? Oh, and what if I tried to join the Oddfellows just to get the secrets? And he was in my live. I kept seeing him like dart in and out of my live. And that was the only thing he said. He said, look up the Morgan affair. And it was the only comment he left. And I forgot. I said, oh, okay. People tell me to look things up all the time, like every 2 minutes. So I was like, okay, yeah, the Morgan affair. I'll look that up. And later I was laying there just bored. I was just kind of like unwinding. And I was like, oh yeah, what was that? And I looked up the Morgan affair, and it's about this guy, William Morgan, who, that was his name, who had been a Freemason and then wrote a book exposing Freemasonry. And the Masons kept threatening him and telling him to, like, get out of town and all this stuff. And when he kept, like, trying to expose it and put out this book he'd written, he disappeared. And most people think they killed him. So that,
look up the Morgan affair. Oh, man. Yum.
Yeah, so he told me to look up the Morgan affair. And I did. And that's what I found out. I was like, this seems kind of like, I don't know, he's really nice, so I don't think he was threatening me.
It was more like a warning.
Yeah, maybe a warning. Yeah, I felt, at first I was like, just like a threat, because he's a Mason? But then I'm like, I don't know, he's always been really nice, and he's like really helpful. I'm like, I don't want to go there. I think it was like a warning. Oh, I got you a gift, and it's here. It's just a small thing, but I think you'll like it.
Yay.
I'm going to put you together a little thing and do like a little contactless, you know.
Funny, I have a couple things for you too.
Ooh. So. Gift exchange.
Yeah.
Pause. I might edit this out. I might not. I don't know. I feel like you get the full experience here. Would you hand me a Diet Coke and some ketchup and mayonnaise? I eat my fries with ketchup and mayonnaise, just like in Step Brothers. Don't judge me. It's my fancy sauce. Yeah, so I watched the Barely Sociable video too, because people kept saying, Barely Sociable debunked this. This is debunked. So I watched that earlier tonight, and I read the entire thing that Night Dogs put up, which was really long. And I gotta say, I still don't feel like there was like a true debunking here. Barely Sociable even said, like I said, he said, well, I'm not like the end all be all, but I think this is genius marketing. Like, you move the people out of the rooms on purpose so people become really interested, you know, like, ooh, people are getting moved out of this room. But here's where I run into an issue. So a big reason that Night Dogs thought that this was like BS is that he was able to rent the room and stay in it. And he was like, man, I didn't have no trouble like renting this room. Like, this is a hoax. It's not that big of a deal.
Did they move him out of the room?
No, he was able to call and request the Hard Times room and book it. But if you were going to market something, how come they don't generally promote that room? It's in none of their promotional materials. I personally went on the website and looked through every list available. Well, I already knew that it wasn't listed with Magnificent Seven Suites. Well, I'm eating, but I want it in a minute. I got a new medicine book because I filled up my other one, so I got a Death Note, which I think is funny for my medicine since, you know, I feel like I'm dying all the time. So I went through every listing they had on their website. I went through the suites, like the big, like themed room suites first, the Magnificent Seven, but I know it wouldn't be there because I'd already read that. But just in case. And then I went through their suites, which I think it's technically one of their suites, even though it's like a concrete box. I went through their suites. There's no listing for the Hard Times room at all. Another thing that was very strange was that Barely Sociable called too, and he asked for the rundown of every suite, every themed room, he really went into it. Like, give me every bit of information because I want to tell my girlfriend, is what he was saying. And he had it all written down, everything on the screen, what was told to him. And there was no Hard Times room. So if this was a promotion,
I was about to say, if this was some kind of marketing thing, they really could have been onto something. They just flopped. Because if I was doing it, I would do like what they did. Oh, you're not supposed to be in there, remove people out. But I would keep that going. I would not comment like, there's no room 322. That doesn't exist. And then anytime someone accidentally got put in there, I would keep moving them out to keep the interest, like to keep it going.
Well, that's
so
what
it's
I
like,
said.
that is marketing. That's could have been really like neat and interesting, but they just kind of failed. I feel like if that was the case.
Well, I guess you could make the argument, because I'm trying to be fair here, because I have no horse in this race. Like, I'm not as mad as some of the other people were. So to be fair, I guess you could make the argument that like what Barely Sociable said was that, you know, it's to create that same aura of like a Hotel Stanley. That's like, well, he didn't list them specifically, but basically that there's all these places that make you feel like there's something spooky going on, like a Hotel Stanley. And then you get more people. So maybe keeping that room secretive adds to the allure. But it doesn't explain the panic, the shady, like darting around. Like,
oh, it's a jail room.
That explanation is trash, in my opinion, and I don't see that opinion changing. And this really is just coming from a place of like, I found this weird story. We were looking at different stories together to talk about, and we were like, ooh, that one sounds really interesting.
Bumped out.
Yeah, it wasn't like, I'd have no like super, you know, personal dog in this. Yeah, I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't care that much. Like, people were like, this has been debunked. This is a themed room. It's like, you know, whatever. That's fine if that is all that it is. But there are other
themed
rooms.
Theme? Cult?
Oh,
cult
theme? Like adult themed. And that'd be fine too. You know what? Maybe that's all. Okay, so if we're going to like a boring conclusion, I think it's like the boring answer might be that it's for people with money with certain interests to stay in, and that you just have to be in the know and wink it out. Have the password. Maybe the other times they were booked up. So they panicked because somebody got put in there because everything else was full. I think that's really possible. But here's where even that leaves something to be desired. If you've ever seen things of an adult nature that are rooms, I'll give you an example. My sister recently was looking at house listings. My oldest sister, Marika, was looking at house listings, and she was like, look at this house. And it took us all a while before somebody was like, oh, what? Their basement was of an adult nature. And it was filled with things. There was it was actually like really kind of awesome because it was so nice. Like it was filled with this bar that went like one area to the other. And lots of like big wooden X's and things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this is just somebody's suburban home. Like, and the size of it and the effort in it is so much more than this expensive hotel. So I'm kind of like, why would I guess if you're rich and you just need to go somewhere to fulfill your interests for that night, Maybe you go, you know that the ZaZa's got you. Maybe that's what it is. And it's not, it's just quick and easy. It's not.
And maybe that's why they're so sketchy about explaining what it is. They don't want that reputation attached to the hotel.
Well, and also they were really weird. Like the rep, this was a really interesting thing too, refused to answer questions about that picture of Jay. I want to say Camo, but I heard somebody else say it Kamei. But it looks like the French O to me. Like it's like EAUX.
Oh.
That same rep, that Houston Times article, she was very weird about explaining why they had that picture. She was like, I would say I'd have to get back to you on that. And they were like, are you aware of the online discourse around this room? And she said, I'm aware of the dialogue, yes. And they had no explanation for that. I believe it was Night Dogs who said, well, it's a jail theme, so he went to jail.
No. Denied.
Denied. Pass. I know. And then what bothers
You're
me
having a picture of someone, like have it be of like the warden or, you know, I don't know.
Or why not somebody who famously went to jail? Like we have so many like Bonnie and Clyde, or, you know, like we have so many. America in particular is loaded down with like famous outlaws. Like that's like our thing, the Wild West and famous outlaws. And you put Jay Camo, leader of the Stanford Financial Group. It reminds me of this episode of Third Rock where who are they? He's like some random senator, and the whole time he keeps explaining it to people. It reminds me of that so much. Like it's like Halloween. He's like dressed as some like random. I wish I could remember it, but basically, like, who in the world would go into that room? Like, say we're staying there, and we go in there, and there's skulls and bones everywhere, and there's very strange art, which I dig. I make really weird art. There's skulls and bones everywhere, and there's this picture of this guy. What person? Give me one. This, and then I'll believe you that it's Saul. Right. Give me one person who would walk into that room and be like, nice jail theme. Oh, right. Jay Camo, he went to jail. That's nice.
It seems legit.
Like, who's chuckling at that joke? I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure that it goes into all these, like, really, you know, like, skull and bones and, like, but then you have to think, on the other hand, why couldn't it? If you're watching this on YouTube right now, because it's on YouTube, so you would be, get on the little search bar and look up Skull and Bones initiations. Like, it's weird. It exists. There's cameras of it, or there's footage of it. Get on there and also look up, let's see, what's it called? Bohemian Grove, where they have you ever seen Bohemian Grove? Bohemian Grove is it was like this and I hate to say it because I think Alex Jones is the one who filmed it, and I'm, you know, but it is footage, and I think that, like, the people that go there confirmed it to be like a real thing. They're like, it's just our weekend, like, but it's footage of like secret society stuff, like out in the middle of the woods in California, where they have this like giant statue and they're like dancing around it naked, and there's fires, and like, now here's like where I think it's interesting that things like this exist out there, and that there's like weird footage of it, that there's weird hotel rooms. But to be clear, where I split from people who really take it really far is that I think it's more like, it's most likely more like these like rich people who are kind of bored, and like they just have these traditions left over, you know, from another time or from college. Maybe they went to Yale. You know, little Bobby Brown or Bobby Joe's dad was really powerful, so he got to be in the Skull and Bones, and now they're bored and they go out to Bohemian Grove and they do their little stuff, and you know, it's probably
they stay in this room in the Hotel ZaZa,
and it makes them feel special and mysterious.
Yeah,
I think that's probably the case. what do you think? I want to know your opinion a little more.
I definitely think that the room is bizarre. I do not buy the jail theme. I think anything jail related was added after this original
I do too.
post. I don't think it's directly related to like a big secret society. I think it's probably related to one, I would say, based in Houston that we just don't know about because it's small, or maybe like a small club, maybe not even like a society, but maybe like that's where club members meet. I don't necessarily think it was hotel marketing, and if it was, they flopped on it. Like, it could have been cool if that was the case. Yeah, my final opinion is it's probably related to like a smaller level secrets. Maybe, like you said, maybe there were some businessmen that went and were in the Skull and Bones, but now they live in Houston and they're trying to, keep a little thing going. I think that's likely. That's my likeliest explanation.
Well, let's say you are in a secret society. Let's say you are in like Skull and Bones in college or whatever. And then you grow up and you got a job and stuff. And maybe it's just your fun and you keep it alive. And it's really just about like, it's just a fraternity. And like, I could definitely see that being the case too. Like I could definitely see the fun of being in a secret society and wanting to like keep the secrets. And of course, if they are keeping them secret, like we're not going to find out, but I think it's kind of weird. So
the main thing I don't get is the picture of, oh dude, strange. That's like the one thing that I really don't know how to explain.
Well, the hotel presidents like lived there, remember, for like 2 weeks. Right. So I think maybe more of what Night Dot said was something like perhaps that's his friend and he's like ribbing him, like so. But that still doesn't like fit. He's like, okay, so it's a jail theme. He knows this guy, or maybe it's not his friend. Maybe it's somebody he didn't like socially because the guy's from that area too. So maybe it's something, but he didn't like socially, so he like put it up as a joke, like, haha, you're. But that still to me does not mesh with the fact that would make sense, and I would accept that if the room looked like a jail cell. Like,
that's so very specific. I wonder if somebody was trying. Well, I don't know if I should say. I wonder if someone was trying to like. I don't want to say. I don't know. I'm not trying to say like cast spells, but like hex the guy, and that's why his picture's still in the room. They like.
I'm
left
not
it
doing
behind.
I've already been accused. I have been accused of trying to curse the kids on TikTok all week, and that video trends every couple days. And I keep thinking maybe I should just take it down. Okay, to explain to people who might not be familiar, sorry. I have this video that I did on a Reddit mystery, and I was going to do a lot more videos. This one was pretty clearly an ARG, which is an altered reality game. It's where somebody creates a puzzle, which I think are interesting too, by the way. And I also think it's interesting when you don't have definitive proof that it's an ARG or a hoax. I think that's kind of interesting. Like, was it, wasn't it? This one really leads more towards it was. It was a band that sent out these creepy sounding CDs.
I remember. I watched these.
Yeah, and then the band participated. Like, the band members play characters and like they'll talk to you on social media. So I put up a video about it. And I played a short snippet of the recording that got sent in the mail, which, just so you know, it's experimental music. It's a genre called noise, which, I mean, I've taught art for a long time. And you always have things like that. You have experimental art too, which is, or like visual art. That can sometimes be a little strange. The first one that comes to mind is like the one where it's like Psycho, but it's stretched out to be like, I think 24-hour Psycho is what it's called. And it's just literally the same footage slowed down. And the whole experiment is to show that Psycho is so scary because it's pacing and it's music and etc. So this is just experimental. I would have never thought in a million years. Somebody called me deeply irresponsible this morning. I would have never thought in a million years to put a warning And I mean, I don't want to like give people anxiety, but then again, I do think like when you're presenting something that's scary, where's the line? Because it's also clearly supposed to be a little unsettling because it's clearly a scary video. It's like a guy banging metal together, and it's literally maybe 2 seconds in my video. I just am like, ooh, there's a little snippet. And yeah, like people were really like, what if this is a spell or a hex? I mean, I do like when we talk to like all the way go there, just like because it's funny, like to go to the like most absurd.
Right.
I think it's more likely that he was in there as kind of a joke, but that it was a dark joke, not like not like a dark humor, like dark comedy movie kind of joke, like a, oh, I got you, buddy, you're going to jail, because these are powerful people that are connected, especially if the president of the hotel like used that as his residence for a while. I think more of a mean-spirited joke to put him in this like dungeon room, or it's blackmail.
Oh,
what if old Jake Mo, whatever his name is, what if he had utilized that room himself? And let's go all the way, even though I don't believe this necessarily. What if that was a two-way mirror in the room, and there was some footage of old Jake Mo
was in there like, better stay in line because I got you.
He's in there wearing like some kind of like bull mask or something.
Dog suit.
Dog suit. He's like on a leash. So they put his picture up in the room. Don't say nothing. I think that's a good theory too.
Oh, I love that theory.
William, do you think the ZaZa's open? Should we call?
It's a hotel, they're always open.
Ask him. Call him on your phone and ask him if you can book the Hard Times room. I don't know. I think you can now. But that doesn't change the fact that it's not promoted and it's not listed on the website. So even if you can book it now, my personal theory was that this room was private for whatever reason. Do I think that there's like sacrifices happening in there? No. Do I think that there's some older businessmen who are maybe like a little bored and having fun in one way or the other? Yes. I don't think that it was for the general public. I think the blog from years ago proves that. I don't think marketing makes sense, because let's say that we were marketing something like that, right?
Right.
If you're going to create this tiny little room that's full of spooky designs, I would maybe go more the route of pretending it had always been there. Like, it, when we went to the Pirate House in Savannah, we paid a ton of money, because you can't get into the Pirate House in Savannah unless you have some sort of inn, because it's the most popular tourist destination in town. Pirate House in Savannah is said to be the tavern that inspired Treasure Island. So it's really cool. And when we went there, we had to pay for the ghost tour that goes through there to even be able to eat there. And that came with, like, you were allowed to go, like, into these rooms under, like, we went into the rum cellar, right? But there was a couple different ones. Our tour came with a tour of the, hi guys, I'm gonna look up here. Our tour came with a tour of the rum cellar. So if you were gonna market this like tiny creepy room, blah blah blah, why wouldn't it be like something that you offered like as a tour? Like, man, there was this weird room, make it look maybe a little more realistic when we built this hotel, and we left it here and you can stay in it, but only sometimes. It's exclusive, or you can tour it for money. This doesn't make any sense for any of these things. That's what's bothering me, is that none of it makes sense. If it was like a, with the Niquam Sinitis, which was the ARG, the CD, it made sense that was an ARG. As soon as I saw that the guy in the band like pretends to be a creature abandoned in a factory, I was like, okay, it's an ARG. That I get it.
Here's something that I want to know. You said internet found out who that guy was in the picture, I want to know who the artists of these paintings are.
Somebody did know. I was reading the thread. We're just trying to remember everything tonight. Somebody did say that was their friend, but she doesn't think that the artist knows where her paintings ended up. That it was just, they got bought. Probably from a gallery. I mean, I don't know where my paintings are a lot of times. They could be anywhere. They could be. I thought I would like them to be involved in some kind of mystery on the internet. Hopefully that happens for me. It's a very strange situation. I'm not convinced that it, I try not to go back and forth with people because, number one, it's kind of immature. Like, you start going back and forth with people. I just tend to remove people who are being like really a lot. And also because I have so many nice people to talk to on TikTok that I don't want to just like focus on people who are being like negative. Because I'm a little like Hannibal Lecter. Rudeness gets me worse than anything. I don't mind being love that for me. I don't mind being corrected at all. I don't. Like, if somebody's like, hey, you might not have known, but actually I'm glad because I want to know what the real thing is. So I'll be like, oh, good, okay, I'll look into it and I'll tell everyone else that But I hate when people kind of come in and they're like, you're an idiot. Blah, blah, blah. I just delete those because I think it's obnoxious and I don't like it. But I had a lot of people doing that, like, you didn't even look into this. And I'm like, because it occurred to you that I looked into it, but I disagreed with you. Like, I didn't agree. I don't feel like there's a satisfying conclusion.
I agree. There's nothing that makes perfect sense about any of it.
No, I mean, there's some things where it's like, well, again, Occam's razor. Maybe this is just a promotional thing, and it is like what you said. It is just kind of a flop. Like, they just kind of they tried it, but they didn't do it justice. Right. Some
of the things too, if you were gonna set up like a creepy room, I feel like you could have gone way further with it. Like, the fact that it's just like weird paintings, concrete, like, it's a very strange collection of things that like if you wanted to make like a satanic devil room to market,
right,
you could really like push the envelope, or like hidden adult room. Like, well, it's just weird.
See, I hate to say this because it does make me sound like, I really want to make it something. But that's almost like there were people saying like, oh, so they shop at Spencer's Gifts, blah, blah, blah. But that's more authentic to me because, like, if this really is just your spot for your buddies, or, especially like, I'm not trying to hate, but like much older men are not exactly like interior designers usually, like of this type of older man is not usually the type of person who does a lot of decorating. However, if it were more the hotel's decision and they make these beautiful themed rooms, then why wouldn't this one have the same attention, like you're saying, attention and care to look realistic? Instead of like just little like skull pictures, why wouldn't you use some kind of like, you can, as like an alternative person, and you know this too, you can buy really realistic looking like creepy things. I own some of them. William, hand me that. Hand me that amulet. Just so y'all know. And I put this on a different string so the string doesn't look realistic. But we collect stuff from the Mysterious Package Company. And like I said, the string's kind of cheapy. But like we just did the Weeping Book. And it came with this, was like, had twine. Oh, the book is, I should get the book too, but the book is like hyper realistic, looks like a real book. It's crazy. They like bend it, they make it look old, the pages are stained. And this is like centered in the middle of this very realistic looking leather book, and it's tied around it. So it really looks like something like evil and scary. In fact, I'm like promoting them. Please sponsor me, Mysterious Package Company. I would literally cry all day because I love you. But we already did this package. But I was reading online that there have been people who have called the police when they've gotten a mysterious package. Like, it happens sometimes. I read a whole story about somebody taking the package to, like with little kitchen tongs to a bomb squad because they thought it was maybe like contaminated because all the stuff's so realistic. I don't have a ton of money. We get these for holidays or gifts. In fact, I've never bought their higher end stuff. I can't afford this was the highest end one I've ever gotten. It's still pretty reasonable. I can't afford, they have like $400 boxes. I've never bought one of those. In fact, we also usually do this other group now that does like a $20 box, just like postcards. Anyway, my point is, if I can swing getting some of these realistic props sometimes because I like this kind of stuff.
This hotel.
Right. If this was for like to scare people, I mean, I used to work at a tattoo shop that had an actual skeleton or skull. Like they had, I don't remember where, like he bought it or I don't want to know. But there was a real skull in our display case. You remember that? Like,
yep.
So again, I think that's a little actually works against that theory.
Right. I don't know. Do you think the room is was under construction and they just had like stuff thrown in there?
That's possible. I mean, it has the concrete floors. Nothing's cohesive. That's possible.
The fact that the paintings were actually on the wall is what would kind of argue against that. But maybe that fit the theme of the room before they got started construction, so it was like half finished. But then why not just say that when you're asked about it? Like, oh, that room was under construction, so that's why we moved them right out because it's not, a finished room yet.
Exactly. Instead of saying like, oh, it's one of our mini themed room and it's clearly a jail when it's there's nothing that makes it look like a jail. Yeah, why not say that? Also, and this is really important to me to say, I mean, it's just my opinion. This is not like facts I'm about to say, but I think it's the opposite. I think instead of putting this out there to try to promote the hotel, I think that the opposite is true. I think that they didn't really want anybody to stay there. Maybe somebody who's new there like booked it because it was chaotic. And then when interest grew, they were like, well, if we don't start letting people stay in it, it's going to look really suspect. Because they do not advertise it. If you call and ask like what their themed rooms are, they don't list it in that list. You can't book it online. And apparently they have another room you can't book called the yacht room, the yacht room. And it's another one they don't list. And I've never even heard anyone mention what's actually in that one. So that's still a mystery. But
road trip when the pandemic, when we get our shots.
So let's see. So far, we're going on a road trip to meet Bob, Robert Hungerford, and Brian Hance. And now, after this episode, we have also added that we're going to go stay at the Hard Times room at the Hotel ZaZa.
Yep. Oh, I'm so down for that.
I would love to. We had some kind of, remember when we were doing it, we used to do ghost hunting together. I don't know if I mentioned that in the first video on here, but like.
I think you did. There was one we wanted to go stay in somewhere in Alabama, like down in Birmingham or something.
Yes, and it looked so similar to the Hotel ZaZa from the outside that when I first found this story, I thought maybe it was like because the sign and everything was so similar. And that's a shame because we never actually went. Maybe if this actually gets under control, we could do that because I would love to. I don't know if we ever really super believed in ghosts because we never really. We ordered this Ouija board and we were so excited about it, and it came broken in half, which was kind of spooky and funny. Because I was like, oh my gosh.
I was thinking about that the other day, how it came broken.
And we were like, a demon broke it. And I had never done a Ouija board in my life, which is so funny because I'm not even somebody who's scared of things. But my mom, my whole life was like, just don't do one. Why risk it? Don't do it. I'm like, okay. But and then we did it. We filmed the whole thing, and it was like the most boring video we probably ever did. It's like, I mean, we had like a setup of where we were going. We had the story. We had all this stuff, and we went out there with our friends. And that was all I thought interesting. Until we actually have the filmed portion of us with our hands on the board, and nothing happened at all. We did it multiple times, and of course it didn't. I'm like, now I'm mad at myself. Of course it didn't, but all of us were like weirdly afraid. Like the stories around them were ridiculous. Okay. I think that's about it. Do you have any final thoughts? William was maybe going to call. If he does, I'll edit it in. But he's.
No, I think that's it. I know Andrew stayed at a really creepy hotel in Mississippi. I was like, man, if we start doing a series where we stay, and I don't know if this hotel has any history. I just think it's really like creepy looking and would make a cool video. But if we start doing a little series where we go stay at creepy hotels, I got to remember to add that one to the list.
Well, the one we stayed at for your wedding ended up being a little creepy inside. Like it looked so cool.
That one was just old. It was creepy.
It was mainly the foyer area, like where you paid, was like a little like, oh, y'all are serial killers. Like,
right. This is where they go.
Yeah, it wasn't like haunted. Was this one that Andrew stayed at? He felt like,
yeah, it was like Overlook Hotel vibes for sure. Like something directly from a Stephen King novel.
I would love to stay at the Hotel Stanley. I would love that. Well, I think that's a plan. I've got an appointment to be vaccinated. I wish it was sooner.
I keep hoping that my workplace is going to get vaccines because they do the flu shot there every year. Like they have nurses and stuff, all like actual nurses on site and stuff. So I'm hoping that they're gonna provide. I keep there because that's the word going around is that they're gonna get them there for us like they do the flu shot. So I'm hoping that happens.
You should be eligible if you call. We both were.
Right.
So, I mean, if nothing else, I'm looking forward to seeing you. We have not seen each other in person. Elena sat on my porch one night and we talked through the glass door. That was in the fall. That was in October.
Yeah, that was your birthday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I gave you your gift. All right. We'll wrap it up and then we'll keep reminiscing for a minute. Because I don't know how much people want to hear us reminisce.
Right.
But that's the Hotel ZaZa, the Hotel ZaZa, and that's my and your opinion on. I think we have kind of a similar opinion, which is it's not necessarily the most sinister thing you've ever heard of,
right. But something is not adding up. Correct.
Just think, I don't think that we have the like real, full, true answer. That's my opinion. And I think there is an answer. And I think if it was told, it would be kind of a letdown. I think it would be kind of like I think it's probably something of an adult nature. A lot of things are, when you come down to it, things a lot of times come down to money and adult stuff. And, they're the root of a lot of these things. So I think that's probably about what you're looking at. But all right. Well, this was fun.
Bye.
Bye. I'm keeping you for 1 minute. I'm gonna finish eating my fries.
Subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what you think, give us your opinion, all that good jazz,
all the stuff going. Leave us comments, and let us know what you guys think of this format. As we talked about before, I think this will change when we're vaccinated and we can be in the same room.
Right.
I think that I actually have a nice microphone. I forgot. My mother-in-law got me one of those big microphones for Christmas. I've never used it. So
that'd be excellent.
Once we're in the same room, I've got this really nice lift-up desk here. We can literally sit here together, put the microphone, and it'll be a little bit more of a professional setup. I'm just not prepared to do that until we're trying to be very pandemic safe. So that's why we're on Zoom. But we used to film together. I would edit all night. I would add music, funny sound effects, all of the stuff. So right now we're just doing more streams. But I'll also be honest with you. I think people kind of prefer that. They like to listen while they do stuff. I put stuff like this on. I'm minimal on the pictures.
Too.
And that's why I was kind of minimal with the pictures.
While I'm doing chores or going down the road. Where I don't have to look at something all the time, cook, all that kind of stuff.
Me too. And I think with this, it's like, I like the Zoom thing because it's like, if you watch it, it's kind of like you're hanging out too. So let me know if you guys are, looking for something else. Like, I like constructive criticism. So, have you watched any of my videos on Lake City Quiet Pills?
No.
Watch the Lake City Quiet Pills series. I really went in depth. Like, I literally wrote out pages and pages of a script to make them. And I think that going into it even more in depth on here would be a really good one.
Yeah.
But I want to know what you think. So watch those. Like and subscribe. Follow us, please. My first big goal for us is to get to at least 1,000 subs. So please help us. And we'll see you guys next time. Probably going to do Lake City Quiet Pills.